Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I'm crafting with the Spellbinders May 2023 card kit of the month. This one is called Spreading Happiness and you get everything that you see here, plus I think not shown is the adhesive, and that includes 8 USA2 card bases with matching envelopes. You'll get some A2 size card panels in solid color cardstock. You'll get a set of pattern paper. I think it's 20 sheets, all unique designs. And then you get some die cut ephemera elements, some sticker elements, and a sprinkle pack as well. So today's video is I will actually be introducing my mini one-sheet wonder. We are up to number 4. This is a very new endeavor for me, so I'm really excited to share this new one, which is really based on a bunch of squares. So this first strip here I've cut to 2.5 inches, and then I rotated it along that 6-inch edge, and I'm gonna cut 2 squares that measure 2.5 inches. That's gonna leave me with this 1 inch by 2.5 inch strip. I'm gonna cut this one down to 2 squares that measure 1 inch square, and then 1 banner that's 1/2 inch by 1 inch. Now, normally with my mini one-sheet wonders, I recommend cutting using double-sided pattern paper. Since the Spellbinders card kits come with single-sided papers, I've just actually put 2 pieces of papers back to back together, and I'm cutting both at the same time. Now with this strip, I just cut down another 2-inch strip, and I'm going to cut that strip into 2 by 2 inch squares. That's going to give me 3 squares that measure 2 by 2. This final strip measures 1.5 inches wide, and along that 6-inch edge, I'm going to cut these into 4 squares that measure 1.5 inches square. So this entire series of cards will really kind of feature squares. So you have 2 squares that are 2.5 inches, 3 squares that are 2 inches, 4 squares that are 1.5 inches, and then 2 squares that are 1 inch, and plus a little banner flag. So my thought process behind developing this cutting guide and the sketches to go along with it is that so often when I'm using pattern papers, I have left over just this strip. And I thought it might be fun to actually kind of think of a cutting guide and a series of card sketches that help you make good use of your scraps that are really easy cuts. And I keep pattern paper even down to, you know, the small 1 by 1 inch. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to just make as many different size squares as I could, and then combine them and see how many card sketches I could come up with. So this first one here, I'm using one of the largest ones. So this is, that big square is 2.5 inches, and then the 2 pink squares to the side are 1.5. And this is why I recommend using a double-sided pattern paper, because then on a single card, you can feature 2 different patterns. And that way, from this single sheet of 6x6 pattern paper, you can actually create in this mini one-sheet wonder, it'll end up being 4 different card sketch layouts. So as a set, you can just use your 1 sheet of double-sided pattern paper and create 4 cards from all of the pieces. No scraps left over. And that's definitely another one of my goals, is to use everything that's been cut down from that single sheet of paper. Now with the Spellbinders papers, as I mentioned, they are single-sided. So what I did was I just cut 2 of them at the same time. That way I can kind of give you the sense of what this might look like if you did have double-sided paper, but also if I'm going to cut 1, I may as well cut 2, and that way I can actually make a second set of 4 cards from this. So there's going to be another set that I'll have to craft with, and it'll be basically the opposite of the pieces that I've used here. And as you can see on this card, just having those two different patterns as a little bit of variation can be helpful. That way you can sort of mix and match, get different. And I love that the paper pad, it's not a full paper pad, it's 20 sheets, but I love that there are designs like these that coordinate really well together. So one is like a small repeat pattern, and then the other is a floral pattern with a slightly larger print. So that's what I like to look for when I am, in general, combining multiple different patterns on a single card. But specifically, if you are using separate single-sided sheets, you can be a lot more picky about, the patterns you're combining, as opposed to when you're using a double-sided sheet. But usually a good paper pad will be designed to where the two sides of any single sheet coordinate really well together. So that's why I've never really come up against any issues of using double-sided pattern paper. Though I will suggest that if you can find pattern papers that are non-directional, that just makes them even easier to use, so that you can convert my sketches, if it's shown as a portrait-oriented card, you can change it up and make it a landscape card. So feel free to just use these however you like. And with this second card here, I've added some mats and layers. Now, I don't show mats and layers in my card sketches, but you should feel free to add as many mats and layers as you'd like. And here I'm using the solid color cardstock panel that I've cut down a smidge, and then another pattern paper from the set of papers that we got as another background piece. And the squares that I'm using here, I'm featuring the 2-inch square. There's 2 of those. And then I also have the other square is one of the 1.5-inch square pieces. Actually, that one's 1 inch. Sorry, that one's a 1-inch square piece. So I had a lot of fun working with all of these squares, because I don't normally have a focus on squares, but I thought for this particular mini one-sheet wonder, it's going to be, for me, useful to have these sketches, because I do often have so many little strips of different widths that I can easily cut down into squares and create something just a little bit more interesting than, just using it as a strip of cardstock or a strip of pattern paper. And the ephemera pieces that you get are really, really lovely. They are pre-printed, pre-die cut for you, and you get 2 of each design, which is really great. Then you also get some puffy stickers that have some nice sentiments, and as well a set of chipboard stickers too. I didn't use on any of my cards, but there was also a full sheet of puffy ampersands in all different sizes and styles. So those I think would be really fun if you're trying to kind of combine multiple different phrases, like peace and joy, for example, is the first one that comes to mind. But I think those were really fun. I just didn't happen to craft with those. And I didn't craft with the sprinkles either, because I think those would be that mix is gorgeous, and I think it would be really great for shaker cards. But these card sketches today are mostly flat. I did use some of the foam squares that you do get in the kit for some added dimension, but none of the cards will be interactive or pop-up cards as such. This layout here features the largest square, which is 2.5 inches square, and one of the 1.5-inch square pieces. And I think with sketches like the ones that I'm showing here, you can it's so modular. Just play with these little square pieces and see what you come up with. I think that's half the fun of it. And I can't necessarily guarantee that I have never seen a sketch like, some of the ones that I'm presenting here, but I didn't actually go seek out card sketches to share. These cards were developed just as a play session, essentially. So that's kind of how I come up with these things. I have an idea for how I want to cut the paper. And then when I have those pieces cut down in hand, that's when I start to kind of move them around and assemble them, combine them into what looks pleasing to my eyes anyways. And so for me, it's a lot easier to actually have the pieces cut down so that I can kind of move them around, combine them in different ways, try different sizes out. And that's how a lot of these sketches I should say how all of these sketches evolved. Some of them I had a good idea of in the back of my head. This one in particular is one that I could kind of see. And when I got to actually making the card, what I think really made it more interesting is the strip of pattern paper that I added, which again, I mentioned I don't show any mats and layers because I think that's definitely up to your own creativity. I just show on my sketches sort of, how you can use the pieces that you've cut from your 6x6 pattern paper, how you can kind of lay them out. And then in the background, you can kind of make that your own. But this one, I really feel comes to life a little bit more with this strip of additional pattern paper that I've added to that left-hand side. And then I am going to sort of stack these 3 size squares. Now these squares are your 2-inch, your 1.5, and your 1-inch squares that I've matted with some of the solid color cardstock that does come in the kit. Not in the kit are these Love from Lizzie's pinstripe stickers, which I often use to sort of clean up that edge or the border of my pattern papers. And you can see I'm cutting them very conservatively into these small little strips. And that's because most of the length of that pattern paper is going to get covered up by these squares. So why use a full strip when I can just use a bit of leftover from a previous project and just use maybe about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch strip and conserve those longer strips for where you're actually going to see the full length of it. So these stickers are really great. You can definitely make them kind of stretch. For me, because I live in the US and Love from Lizzie's ships out of the UK, it's I definitely want to conserve and make it stretch as as far as possible because the time and the cost of shipping can take a while. So definitely use up your little strips, save them, and use them in these ways where most of the length is covered. Here's a final recap of the 4 cards that I created. And if you do want the printable with the cutting guide and the card sketches shown, I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. It is a digital download that I do charge a small fee for, but you can obviously print it as many times as you want. I just ask that you don't share it because one of the main reasons I started to design these mini one-sheet wonders is to add an additional perk to my channel membership. And as a member of my YouTube channel at any level, you will get the printable for free. Membership starts at the 99 cents a month level, and at that level, you always get the most recently released printable, and until I release the next one, that's always going to be available for you to download for free. Members at all of the other higher levels will have access to the full archive all the time. So no rush to get your printables. They're going to always be available to you. Check your membership tab to see if you're already a member where to download the printable if that's what you're interested in. But of course, this video is going to always be available and is of course always going to be free. And I've just gone through how to cut down your 6x6 pattern paper and each of the 4 different card sketches that you can create with those pieces. So you can always refer back to this video. You can slow it down, you can pause it, and if you want to play along, I don't have a challenge or anything. I just like to make this available to my channel members and make it available as a download if you like having, you know, a physical printout. Thanks so much for joining. If you do craft along and make any of my mini one-sheet wonders, I hope you'll join my Facebook group, Crafty Fun with Friends of LV Handcrafted. There's a link to that in my description box as well, and I hope you'll share what you make with me. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.